The silent choir. No one in the small town of Ashton Hill liked to talk about St. Mary's Orphanage. Abandoned for decades, the crumbling building sat on the outskirts like a forgotten tomb. Stories whispered of a fire that killed all the children inside. But no one dared visit to confirm until Erin. Erin was a freelance photographer with a taste for the macabre. When she stumbled upon a mention of St. Mary's online, she couldn't resist. A haunted orphanage. Perfect for her next project. Armed with her camera and a flashlight, she headed to the site alone. The building was suffocatingly quiet, the kind of silence that felt heavy, like it was watching her. Dust hung in the air, and the faint scent of smoke still lingered, decades after the fire. As she stepped inside, her flashlight flickered. She cursed and smacked it, her voice echoing eerily through the vast, empty halls. She started snapping pictures, rows of rusted beds, charred walls, and crumbling toys, all relics of the lives lost there. But as she reviewed her shots, her breath caught. In the corner of a photo, faint but unmistakable, stood a group of children. Their faces were pale and blurry, but their eyes were black voids staring directly at the lens. She turned, heart pounding, but the hallway was empty. Shaking it off as a trick of the light, she moved deeper into the building. That's when she heard it, faint, melodic humming. It was distant at first, like it was coming from the other end of the orphanage. She froze, straining to listen. The humming grew louder, joined by more voices, until it became an eerie choir of children's voices singing a nursery rhyme. Ring around the rosy. The sound was coming from everywhere now. Her flashlight died completely, plunging her into darkness. She fumbled for her phone to use its light, but before she could turn it on, a cold, clammy hand brushed against her arm. "Stay with us," a childlike voice whispered, inches from her ear. Erin screamed, bolting back toward the entrance, but the hall seemed to twist and stretch, leading her deeper into the building. The singing grew louder, deafening, as ghostly figures began to materialize around her, children with burnt clothing, ashen faces, and empty eyes. One boy stepped forward, his face charred beyond recognition. "We didn't want to burn," he said, his voice cracking with pain. "Help us." Terrified, Erin stammered. "How? What do you want?" The boy raised his hand, pointing toward a door at the end of the hall. Erin didn't want to go, but something compelled her forward. She pushed open the door and found herself in what must have been the dining hall. The long tables were scorched, but dozens of tiny handprints blackened the walls. On the far side of the room was an altar with a melted crucifix. Beneath it lay an old book called Anchors of Hope by S. Thomas, its pages singed but intact. Erin opened it, and her stomach turned. It wasn't a Bible, it was something else, filled with rituals, sacrifices, and symbols meant to summon something. The fire hadn't been an accident. The headmistress had attempted to sacrifice the children to summon an unholy entity, but the ritual had gone wrong, trapping their souls in eternal torment. The singing stopped. A hush fell over the room, and Erin felt a chill crawl up her spine. The children stood behind her now, watching. "You have to finish it," the boy whispered. Her hands trembled as she picked up the book, flipping to the final page of the ritual. She didn't know what she was reading, but the words came out of her mouth, each one feeling like shards of glass scraping her throat. As she spoke the last word, the room erupted in screams. The children began to vanish one by one, their faces finally peaceful. But the ground shook, and the crucifix fell, revealing a gaping hole in the wall from the darkness beyond. Something stirred, something that had been waiting. Erin realized too late that the ritual wasn't to save the children. It was to release what the headmistress had summoned. The last thing she saw before the darkness swallowed her was its eyes, hungry, endless, and all too real. The townspeople found her car abandoned the next day, but Erin was never seen again. Some say you can still hear the silent choir at St. Mary's, singing for anyone foolish enough to step inside.